You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
60s at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for Monday, December 9th, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfield, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. And we're ready to go the next 2 hours. It should be a lot of fun. I'm expecting to have some interesting dialogue with our listeners after what happened on Saturday night and then yesterday in the college football playoff rankings and seedings and invitations. Alabama is not part of the CFP. That is the big story here in the state of Alabama. And kind of a weird series of events that led to Alabama being left out. We're going to break it down for you. How do you feel about it? Do you think it's fair? Do you think they got it right? Do you think they got it wrong? Do you blame the committee? Do you blame Kalen DeBoer? What are your thoughts on Alabama not making the 12-team playoff in the first season of the expanded playoff after making it not every year, but it seems like almost every year when it was a 14 playoff. And certainly once Nick Saban got to Alabama in 2007, beginning in 2008, Alabama was in the hunt every year for either the BCS national championship game or the college football playoff. And then this first season under Kalen DeBoer, the Tide does not even make a 12-team playoff. So, and is headed to Tampa to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Michigan in a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal at the Rose Bowl, which was won by Michigan in overtime on the Wolverines. And as the Wolverines went on to win the national championship, we now get that in a bowl game. So a lot to unwrap this morning. We're going to do that for you. Obviously, I'm going to have my opinion on what happened, and I want to hear your opinion as well. 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. I do need to let you know this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. You can find out more at alabamacu.com. Member-owned and not-for-profit, what does that mean? Well, you're not just a customer, you're a member. It's your credit union. Unlike a traditional banking institution that's taking its profits to pay off its shareholders, Alabama Credit Union is taking its profits and returning them to you in the form of lower interest rates on loans and higher dividends. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put extra change in your pocket. Can't wait to visit with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com at 9:30. His thoughts on what happened with the college football playoff. And also at 10:30, Casey Smith on golf. And we'll also talk Bama with Casey Smith as well. But Justin Thomas led the Hero World Challenge Tigers tournament going into the final round yesterday and then got smoked by Scotty Scheffler. And Scotty Scheffler looks like he's going to be even better in 2025 than he was in 2024. He's gone to the claw grip for the putter, and now he's making everything. That's a scary thought for the rest of the PGA Tour. I'm just going to tell you right now. Scotty Scheffler looks like he is an absolute Iger mode player right now, that he's going to put up some numbers that will rival Tiger based on what I saw over the weekend. But we will get into that with Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Also, Kalen DeBoer, following the Alabama Football Awards banquet last night, met with the media on a Zoom call and discussed Alabama not making the playoff, also the bowl game situation and possible opt-outs. The portal has been busy as far as it's not open yet, but it opens today, and there are expected to be a number of Alabama players that go into the portal. We'll run those down for you as well. 205-342-9904. I'm expecting those phone lines to get cranked up, and in fact, they're off and running already. And I'm going to visit with Chase in a few minutes and get his thoughts, too, on what occurred over the weekend. But right now, we're going to visit with Jim, who's kind of become our leadoff man here on the show. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, I wasn't totally surprised about it. I ain't really upset. I guess you can make, either team can make an argument, depending on what side you're on. One thing for sure, we know ESPN didn't have any weight in it, I guess, or they for sure would have had Alabama put in. So I guess that proves that the committee's not bowing down, to any pressure from ESPN. Alabama did have the, two worst losses. They had a better schedule, but SMU has no control over their conference opponents, how good they are. The two losses they did lose were ranked teams, and both was close. So I'm just saying, if you're an SMU fan, that's going to be your argument, If you remember back, it's been a few years back, when it was 4-team playoff, Alabama lost their second game. I guess it was against Auburn, didn't make this championship game, and they fell back to end up what was number 13. So they wouldn't even made it that year with just two losses. So it's not, unheard of to be, ranked, or that surprising to be ranked out low with three losses. But maybe, hey, our one last chance. Maybe Trump can put some pressure on him. He loves Alabama. Maybe he can threaten him with his attorney general to subpoena all that information the committee has, and maybe they'll change their mind.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think Alabama was, and all the evidence supports that Alabama was had that ACC championship game not gone the way that it went. First of all, if SMU wins, Alabama's in, because there's no way Clemson's going in. And if Clemson goes ahead and puts SMU away when they were up 17, if they go ahead and win that game by 17, 20 points, I think Alabama's in. But when Clemson came back down 17 going to the fourth quarter and tied it up and then lost on the final play of the game, that's what kind of opened the door for SMU to get in along with Clemson. Now, here's the thing, Jim, that if you're an Alabama fan, it's probably so frustrating. You're reading the tea leaves, so, you're hoping for SMU to win the game. But then when they fall behind, then you're like, well, we're hoping for Clemson to go ahead and put them away. Then SMU comes back and ties the game up with 16 seconds to go. 16 seconds. Now, there's no guarantee that SMU was going to win in overtime, but they would have had a chance. And they can't hold the lead or keep it tied for 16 seconds. The one thing you can't do there is give up a long kickoff return. And I'll be dog if that's not what they do. They give up a long kickoff return. Then Clemson hits a nice play for about 20 yards on a pass. And then the kid kicks a 56-yard field goal on the final play of the game. So that's, that's just a crazy way for that game to go. And it gave the committee a reason to put SMU in, and they did, and Alabama's out. And, as you said, you got to live with it. I mean, I'm living with it. I mean, they don't lose 3 games, they're in. I still think they're one of the 12 best teams in the country. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. But this is a world we live in now where Boise State and Arizona State have byes, and Indiana and SMU are in the playoff. It's a different world. Going into the season, just think about this. I said this on social media. Would you have ever dreamed that there'd be a 12-team playoff that included Arizona State, Boise State, SMU, and Indiana, and Alabama not in the playoff? Nobody could have foreseen that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when it came down, you was right. Once Clemson got ahead, you was just hoping they led 24-7, getting the opening off in the second. And you're thinking, okay, this is, as long as they hold the lead, especially if they expand it. And the worst, you couldn't have wrote a better script, as far as them getting back, getting in, being able to, make it a game and coming down like it did. And yes, anything can happen in overtime, but they definitely had the momentum. I mean,
they did. They had the momentum. Yeah.
Now you could down, But as far as the odds, the way they was moving the ball, you would think Clemson would have been forced going for a field goal, and if anybody was going to score a touchdown, it'd be SMU. But, but just have to, wait till next year, hope the recruits, pan out, the backups this year that they keep, develop and get better. So,
yeah, that's the thing that Alabama fans aren't too used to. The wait till next year slogan, like a lot of teams have to deal with. And as I said, I don't think there were very many Alabama fans that, when this thing was expanded to 12 teams, thought that the Crimson Tide wouldn't be in it. But that's the reality. You're right. And now you need to focus, I think, still on trying to win the bowl game. I still think finishing the season in the right way is important. And we'll get to that Kalen DeBoer audio. He indicated last night that he felt strongly that all of the majority of the Alabama players would be on the bowl roster and not opt out. Now, you got some guys going into the portal, and, I'm not sure about them, but the key players, the starters, I think he expects them to be available for this game against Michigan. And as it gets closer, I think there'll be some excitement about it. I don't think people are going to be jumping up and down, but I do think most of the fans will get excited about playing Michigan again and trying to finish the season with a win. So that's all you have left. And as you said, then you got to just prepare for next year and hope that, next year is better. That's all you can do.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that phone call. And let's go ahead and get to Robert over in Birmingham before we have to hit the break. And good morning, Robert. How are you?
Hey, buddy. How are you? Hope you're doing well. It's hoops time in Alabama, right?
Yeah, it appears to be more so than ever. Yeah,
I'm not going to get into all the committee stuff, but sometimes, have you ever signed a contract and you think it looks good on the front end and it's not a good deal? That's exactly
I think most of us probably have. Yeah,
Sankey had all the power they did 18 months ago and the world's changed a little bit. It's not quite as PC as it was 18 months ago, but he had all the power and he underestimated how strong these SEC schedules were going to be, and he did not realize that you could have several teams with 2 and 3 losses that have, you know what I'm saying? He didn't. So they could have. What's the word? They could have put some language in there to make some of the stuff different.
Now when you're saying you're talking about Sankey.
Yes, he had. When you
No. Listen, this is a fail for the SEC. I agree with you. This is not just about Alabama. Although most SEC fans seem absolutely giddy that Alabama didn't get in. But if you're an SEC fan, you should be concerned that the SEC got it put to them by this committee. The Big Ten gets 4 teams in, and the SEC only gets 3. You're right. That's a fail for the Southeastern Conference. There is no doubt about it. Plus, Commissioner Sankey had to stand on that podium on Saturday and listen to Kirby Smart call him out for the Texas schedule and the schedule that Georgia was given. So it has not been a good weekend for the SEC office or the SEC commissioner.
And here's the last thing I'm going to tell you: that you can fix this. You ever heard of the Mendoza line?
I have.
If your non-conference, if your conference schedule is that weak, you should be forced, if you want to participate in the big dance for football, you should be forced to play some legitimate, not the way Clemson does it, okay? These teams like Indiana and SMU, the day that we were playing Wisconsin, they were playing Methodist, I think, Houston Academy or something like that. Look it up. It's unbelievable. So you should be forced to, I don't know how it'd be on the basketball thing. A quad 1 wins. You'd have to have some numerical things.
Yeah. Well, here's something though, Robert. I do think that we have to take into account because I'm with you now. To me, I'm very frustrated by how this playoff looks, and to not have Alabama playing at Notre Dame, which was what I think would have happened if Alabama had gotten in. I think that would have been the 11-6 matchup, and I don't think Penn State would have been the 6th seed. I think they would have been the 7th seed, and Alabama would be the 11th. But I do think that to get this in place the way that they did, and I don't want to say rushed into it, but you had to get some people on board, and you had to include some people. You know how like you're saying, the PC aspect of this playoff, it had to be about inclusion to some degree. to get everybody to sign off on it and get to a 12-team playoff. Because let's just be honest, if it was just about getting the 12 best teams, you may not have anybody from the ACC this year. You may not. I don't even know if you'd have anybody from the Big 12. But you certainly, it would look different. But that's kind of what everybody agreed to. But I do think the premise was that if the Big Ten got 4 teams in, the SEC would. And that would be 8 teams, and then the field would be filled with the other 4. And that didn't happen. And I do think that
messed up.
In this case, the Big Ten got one over on the SEC. And I'll be interested to see how Commissioner Sankey responds and to what this looks like. But does it bother you? Let me ask you a question. Does it bother you that it's all SEC? Everybody in the SEC, it just means war. And do you feel like that this had been Ole Miss or LSU or South Carolina in Alabama's position? Don't you think you'd have a lot of SEC fans crying and moaning? But since it's Alabama that got left out, it's almost like they're all giddy and celebrating.
Yeah, the Bama fatigue is a real deal.
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
It really is.
Sure. It's like, it's just, I'm whatever. It's like whenever I'm going to say a Trump thing, but everybody likes to pile on the guy that's the strong guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're celebrating across the league in Baton Rouge and in Auburn and in Columbia and in everywhere in this conference. Fans are celebrating that Alabama didn't get in, even though it's bad for the SEC. And it decreases the SEC's chances of winning a national championship. But everybody's okay with it because it's Alabama that got left out. So, you know what? I just hope Alabama remembers this. And I hope Alabama fans remember it, too, when they're SEC. Now, you better be about Bama because I guarantee you the rest of the SEC does not give a rip about what happens with Alabama. In fact, like I said, they're enjoying it. Well, you were saying, and you were saying that you thought that the changes would be made going forward. What do you think they'll be?
I think, if you want to do a complete overhaul, college football does not do anything in complete overhaul. They do in snippets. These college presidents are like old They're like old people in D.C. They move very slowly. So I do think if the SEC has a strong hand here, right? Hey, buddy, we're going to cancel. The easy solution is to put more teams in, but then you're diluting the field. But I think they're going to say, okay, we're going to cancel our Notre Dame. We're going to cancel our Michigan down the road. We're not going to play those games. But the TV people don't want you to do that. So if we don't cancel those games, you've got to make these teams play a certain level of competition. At the end of the year, if you're not above this line, you don't get in. And now how do you determine that line? I don't know. Or guess what? The Big Ten and SEC get their ball and go to another court. They pick up Miami, they pick up Florida State, they pick up Notre Dame, and and then come up with a super thing of 30 or 36, and just do their own thing. That's the nuclear blow up option if people don't play ball. But they could also they have all the bargaining chips. They just Sankey pooped in the sandbox, and it's time for him to kind of pick up the pieces and fix it. I think that's my opinion on that. All right, man. Hey, have a good one. Roll Tide basketball.
Thank you, Robert. All right, 9:21 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're off and running. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. If you want to give us a call, we'd love to hear from you. Rodney Orr coming up at 9:30. Also, we do have Kayla DeBoer, his Zoom press conference that he did last night with the media following the Alabama Football Awards banquet. I'll also get to those awards, who won what for the Crimson Tide. And we got a busy show on tap this morning. And you know what? The college football playoff goes on without the University of Alabama, but Alabama still has a game to play, and they'll do so in Tampa, Florida, in the ReliaQuest Bowl on New Year's Eve against the Michigan Wolverines team that lost 5 games, but it's still Alabama versus Michigan. So that's still a marquee matchup any way you slice it. We'll be right back after this.
On the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Monday morning, the Christmas season kicking into high gear across West Alabama tonight. The official Christmas tree lighting at the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse takes place at 5:30, followed by the West Alabama Christmas Parade at 6:30. Earlier in the afternoon at 4:30, it'll be a sensory Santa taking place at the University of Alabama Autism Spectrum Disorders Clinic. An event will include cookie decorating and a sensory bin station. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free. Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
PM, one lucky winner takes home $2,025 cash. Celebrate with us at Silver Star and Golden Moon Casinos. Must be 21 or older to play.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Wet weather headlines are forecast today and tonight. Cloudy with occasional rain. The high today 66, the low tonight 50. Tomorrow cloudy, rain likely, maybe a thunderstorm in spots. The high tomorrow afternoon in the mid to upper 60s at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
I'll be right there. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm just, I'm texting, in regard to Alabama's situation with, I've gotten I got a lot of social media messages yesterday. And as I said, there are a lot of people that are happy Alabama's not in. Hey man, more power to them. But don't sit here and pretend to me that SMU at Penn State moves the meter the way that Alabama at Notre Dame would have. Okay, that's fine. If you think FSU deserves to be in over Alabama, you got every right to believe that. But let's don't sit here and pretend that this playoff with some of these teams that are in the playoff is going to generate the kind of interest that and plus it is still a fail for the SEC not to get 4 teams in, regardless of how you look at it. All right, and it's a tough road now. As Kirby pointed that out with the schedule that Georgia's had to play for them to get ready. And I thought Tennessee got it put to them. I thought Tennessee should have hosted that game against Ohio State. I thought Tennessee's resume to me was better than Ohio State, and yet they're having to travel to Columbus. So it isn't just about Alabama. It's about the league overall. But because it's Alabama, all the SEC people, and it just means more don't care that the SEC got it put to them because it's Alabama they got left out. And there's a lot of people that are happy right here in Tuscaloosa for some reason that Alabama's not in it. I'm trying to figure that one out. All right, let's get to Tom on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Good morning, Tom.
Gary, good morning. How are you?
Doing all right.
I wouldn't say I'm happy about Alabama not making it. But, when it came out yesterday, I just, out of curiosity, looked at the records of everybody. And SMU's got a better one-loss record than Alabama. And fact that's just a fact. And I tell you something, I'm still aggravated that we lost to Oklahoma.
Yeah, a lot of people are, Tom. I get that, okay? I understand that. And if you want to play we only have ourselves to blame, that's fine. Play that card. But to sit there and say that all those wins and losses are equal is ridiculous. To sit there and say that Alabama's wins aren't better than SMU's wins, you know, everybody wants to talk about the losses. Okay, that's fine. But let's look at what Alabama they did beat. They beat Georgia. They blew out LSU in Baton Rouge. They beat Missouri 34-0, a win that's got no credibility, and they're beating the so-called hottest team they beat the so-called hottest team in the country in South Carolina. Now, those 4 wins are better than any win SMU has on its schedule. Period. End of story. So, if Alabama's not in it, you move on. But to sit here and try to say SMU's resume is better because they've got one less loss than Alabama, I don't buy that, and I'll disagree with you on that all day long.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying me. I'm not speaking for the committee or ESPN or anybody else. I'm just saying for me personally, when we lost that freaking game at Oklahoma, it wasn't even right, and we go out there because the wind's blowing. Oh, we can't play in the wind and all that kind of baby crap. And then we had everything sitting out there in front of us to make it to the playoffs and make them sound. Oh, no, we can't do that. And, I mean, that's just – and when we didn't make the playoffs, I go, I don't give a crap. You know, do you think I'm the only one that like that?
I don't think you're the only one, and you got to, right to your opinion. I just think, to me, Alabama deserved to be in the playoff based on the body of work. When they initially lost to Oklahoma, I said the same thing. I said, now you don't have to worry about the playoff. But the way that it played out, and when I look at this playoff, you're not going to convince me that Alabama's not one of the 12 best teams in the country. And when you play in the SEC and you put together a 5-3 conference record, and you have a win over Wisconsin on the road early in the season, and you look at the wins that Alabama had, I would have put them in over SMU. That's just me. That's my opinion. I don't. And, everybody feels sorry for little old SMU. Oh, that would have been a travesty. What was it, a travesty last year when Georgia was 12-0 and won 29 in a row and got beat by Alabama in the SEC championship game and didn't get to go to the playoff? Was that a travesty? Did anybody feel sorry for little old poor Georgia? It bugs me that all of a sudden SMU was put in, oh, poor little SMU. What else can they do? Well, they could have won the ACC championship game. That's what else they could have done, and they didn't do it against a team in Clemson. They got blown out by Georgia and lost at home to South Carolina from the SEC. So that's my point. My point is I don't look at it as poor little LSU and SMU, and they got beat on the last play of the game. They had a chance to win their conference championship game, and they didn't do it, just like Georgia did last year. And Georgia got left out, and that Georgia team last year would have beat this SMU team's brakes off. So, I don't get this pity for poor little SMU.
My point is this. I just, when Alabama, look, win and you're in. That's all there is to it. And stop.
Well, SMU didn't win, and they're in.
They should get off the damn TV and quit whining. Go down there and whine to them players that lost in Oklahoma. That's the problem.
Well, SMU was whining after they lost to Clemson. They were whining. Lashley was on there saying, oh, is the committee going to do the right thing? Everybody whines when they don't get in. For some reason, you want to hold Alabama to a completely different standard. There was so much whining going on last year, you couldn't even turn on the TV without it. So if they want to whine a little bit, they can whine a little bit. They didn't get in. They got to move on. But to sit here and say they should be happy about it, I don't,
This argument for, and here it is right here. Well, all you can do is beat the ones in front of it. That's right.
Jim was at the laundromat when he heard... His ear said, Maraca, senor, but his nose said, hey, freshest scent ever. Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, sir, your scent Maracas smell amazing. You could call them scent maracas, but most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads, way fresher than detergent alone.
7015. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-575-7015 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Tider Insider TV joins us now to discuss this situation with Alabama football. And Rodney, good morning. It's already gotten busy here, as you might imagine. And Alabama did not make it into the college football playoff. The Crimson Tide will play in the Reliant Quest Bowl in Tampa against the Michigan Wolverines. Just your thoughts now. You've had some time, nearly 24 hours to process all this. How do you view it, and did the committee get it right?
Well, I mean, that's a big question right there. Did they get it right? Well, it depends. Do you want teams that maybe won another game or two, or do you want the best teams? And I think what they said yesterday is they're going to reward the teams that, were successful in the season in terms of their wins. 11 wins. What was SMU, for example? 11 wins, 2 losses versus
11-2,
9-3. Yeah, versus 9-3. So they said yesterday that they value teams that win those games, and really doesn't matter who they are, I guess, and maybe who they played, I think is the better way to put it. The opposition that they played. Apparently, they said they value the strength of schedule, but when it came down to it, they really didn't. I think Alabama, I think Ole Miss, I think South Carolina, I think all three of those teams deserve to be in the playoffs more than, say, even Clemson or SMU and maybe some others, even Indiana, because I don't think Indiana beat a top 25 team either.
SMU 0 wins over teams currently in the top 25. Really no good wins. And Alabama, of course, obviously beat Georgia. They beat Missouri, blew them out, blew out LSU and Baton Rouge. Beat South Carolina. So I think Alabama's resume is a lot better. Here's the thing, I can live with it. I've already had some people saying, well, and we've had a couple calls, Alabama can only blame itself. Well, we get that. Winning, you're in. As I said, if you win at Oklahoma, you're in. Well, SMU also could have won and been in. They could have, as I said, we've got this all poor little SMU. Oh, if they get left out. Well, Georgia got left out last year when they were 12-0 and won 29 in a row, and nobody felt sorry for them. And I know it was a 14 playoff, but nonetheless, Georgia was one of the 4 best teams last year and didn't get to go. So I didn't feel sorry for SMU. They had a chance to win. They didn't win. They lost their conference championship game. I would have put Alabama in. That's just me, based on the body of the work. But having said that, Alabama didn't make it, Rodney, and that's the world we live in. So the first year in a 12-team playoff, Alabama isn't a part of it. SMU is, Indiana is, Arizona State is, Boise State is. It's not what Alabama fans expected going into this season, coaching transition or not.
Yeah, no, they did not expect this. I don't think any of us really expected it. You felt like Alabama would probably be in the playoffs. And like you said, they stumbled a couple of times in games. Well, actually, to be honest with you, I think they should have won all 3 of their games that they lost. But I do think, too, there's things that happen in a transition year. It's a really difficult thing going through that first year in transition. We said it before the season. There's going to be a lot of bumps and adversity in this first year, but I think right now where they are, like you said, this Michigan game coming up, I think it's time to focus on that. And I think it's a big game because I think, from just kind of the mental standpoint of the program, I think, you win that game. Now you've won 10 games again. You continue that streak that's been ongoing since 2008. And I think that's really important. And I think it really kind of, the guys that are going to be here next year, it starts off with a positive, starts them off in a positive way. So I think this game's important in that regard. And you've got the portal, obviously, now. You've got to get your roster kind of put together for next year. And I think this transition is now ending. This year is ending. And now you start looking forward to the future in those things. And I think, Gary, this is when Kalen DeBoer really has to start putting his stamp on the program.
Yeah, he does. I'm with you 110%. And we're going to get to his audio on the show. I've got it from the Zoom call last night of which you participated and listened. He indicated that he felt, now listen, we'll get to the portal in the moment. And I don't know about guys that go in the portal, but he indicated that he felt strongly that the guys that were on the team would participate in the bowl game. And I know when he said that, we all indicate or took that as an indication that guys that are possibly going into the NFL would still play in this game. Is that the way you understood it?
He said he did not expect many opt-outs, that he felt pretty positive. He used the word positive when he was asked specifically about players like Jalen Milroe and Tyler Booker, if he expected them to participate. And he said he felt positive, but that he was going to allow them to speak to the players and their teammates today in the team meeting and inform them of their decisions to play. And I think that's a good way to do it. I think you want your leaders, these older guys that have been around in the program, to kind of sow that into the younger players as this is the way we do it. You know, we saw Bryce Young do it. We saw Will Anderson do it. We've seen, other players, Jerry Jeudy a few years ago. All of those guys that could have opted out that stuck with the program through this bowl game, and I think this is important. So they're going to tell their teammates what their plans are today. So to me, Gary, from what I took of it, I think he thinks all of the key players or most of the key players are going to participate.
Yeah, and I think that's good news. And I do think that's a sign that the program is in good shape and that this team is together and wants to finish this off in the right way. When you look at this game, Michigan's got 5 losses. Alabama's, has a better record, appears to be a better football team, but we know that Michigan's fully capable based on what they did, against Ohio State in Columbus. So you've already alluded to it. I think this is a big game for Alabama football. This is a game that you win it, you carry positive momentum into the off season and into really next year. And if you lose it, there are going to be a lot of questions that come up in a hurry about this team, this program, and this coaching staff. Let's just call it like it is. A loss in this game, and the doubters are going to continue to make a lot of noise in regard to the future of Kalen DeBoer and Alabama football. That's just the reality of the world we live in, right?
Well, I think right now is, like I said, this is the start of really when Kalen DeBoer can begin to put his stamp on the program. It doesn't mean that what he hasn't done already has laid some of the foundation, because I think it certainly has. But I think now is that first year you kind of got to get things out of your system. He's got to put his roster together the way he, wants to put it together. That's where, even though he's already kind of started doing that with last year's recruiting class and some of the guys he brought in, now I think he's got his first full year, his first full recruiting class. He's going to go through his first real portal period where he can have an opportunity to, search that portal, find the players that he needs to fill out this roster in a way that he wants to do it. So I think all of those things are important. And, yes, I do think that this game, against Michigan is really important for the reasons I said earlier. But I also think, too, like I said, with him saying we're going to have – somebody asked last night, for example, or are you going to use this time to prepare for Michigan and in this game to kind of start sorting out position battles for next year? And, his response was basically that we're going with the same team that we've pretty much had all year. So I think the focus is on this staff, on this game. I think they feel like it's really important, just like you do.
No, I'm with you 100%. And I'm glad to hear that, because you're trying to win your 10th game. You're trying to beat Michigan. Next year's next year. I'm with you 100%. I'm with Coach DeBoer. This feeling that, we need to start preparing for next year and play a bunch of backup guys. No, you really don't. You need to try to win the game. Winning the game is the most important thing. So I agree with you 100%, Rodney. I agree with Coach DeBoer, and I'm glad that's the approach that they're taking. When you look at this season, as you just said, and I agree with you, I think Alabama should have won all those games that they lost, or could have won, and did not lose to a single team. Now, you could argue Tennessee was comparable in terms of talent on the roster, but there's no way that Vanderbilt and Oklahoma have as good a rosters as Alabama does. Yet they lost those games. As you said, you're going forward, you're trying to put your stamp on the program. But from that standpoint, when you look at how close Alabama was to being in the playoff, they were the first team out, and you look at those losses to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, how disappointing is this season, in your opinion?
Well, again, I like to try to keep things into perspective. And, the way I see it is, Coach Saban did a fantastic job last year of getting that team to the point that he did. I could see cracks. You could see cracks. I think we've seen cracks over the last few years in this program. Things were slipping in a lot of different ways. Changes were coming about in college football that I think affected the way Nick Saban kind of did things. So there were cracks there already. So Kalen DeBoer inherited this, and again, not that he inherited something that was really bad. That's not but there are things that have to be fixed, things that have to be changed. He's got a different system. He needs different players that fit his system. Look, there's been a couple of people that said, you're supporting this guy, and, we don't believe he's a fit, talking about Kalen DeBoer. Well, I think that, number one, I think he's a really, really good coach. I do. Whether or not he's a fit, I don't think anyone knows. That's why I go back to saying what I said earlier. Now is time. Now is his opportunity to kind of put his stamp on the program and win everyone over, I think by what they do on the field in the future. So I'm not really kind of trying to, say that, all is well. But I do think that, the fans that are upset about this past season, 9-3, I mean, look, it's a transition year. There's a lot of difficulties that come with that. So I think you have to be patient. You have to allow this to play out and see how he utilizes all these things that we talked about, the portal and putting his roster together the way he wants it. If he needs to make staff changes, if he thinks some of those are necessary, then now's the time to do it. So we'll see how he handles that, and probably the next year or so will tell us a lot more.
Let's get to the portal. It's already been reported that Kobe Prentice, Caleb Odom, Kendrick Law, Nyquil Bertrand, Miles McVay, Jaheim Otis, Keanu Coote, and Jahil Hurley are going into the portal. You got a portal tracker at TiderInsider.com. There's a number of other names that I'm not going to mention because there's nothing official on them, but at least 5 or 6 more players that are expected to go in, and then there'll probably be more after that. Now, that's not unique to Alabama. That's just the world that we live in. But in regard to the losses, anyone that you've seen reportedly going into the portal that really disappoints you and that has you scratching your head as to why it didn't work out for them at Alabama?
Well, I would say, first of all, again, I don't think there are any surprises in that group. I do like Kendrick Law a lot. I mean, I think he's a really good player. I think he brings some toughness to your program. I think we saw what he was doing, his willingness to block and do the things that he had to do to accept his role. And even Kalen DeBoer mentioned that last night when he was asked about receivers jumping in the portal, not getting a lot of targets, maybe if that was a factor. And he said, look, most of the receivers that we had, they understood we had to do what it took to win this year. So this is what we had to do to win this year. So, Kendrick Law would be a guy that I had hoped would get a few more touches in different ways, but it didn't happen. So hate to see him leave. I think Caleb Odom's an extremely talented guy. But, Gary, again, I think when you come in as a true freshman, you're a 5-star rated player, these things can happen. You expect to immediately become a difference maker. And not everyone is like Ryan Williams, and that happens. So I think they get frustrated. They hear what other people are telling them, people in their ear, and they go and they get a bad attitude. Things don't work out, and, they're in the portal. So I think that's probably what happened with maybe him. But otherwise, like I said, I think Alabama's in good shape so far with where they are in terms of the guys that have gotten in the portal. There are going to be some others, as you mentioned.
Ronnie, my first time to visit with you since last Wednesday's signing day, which certainly now doesn't have any of the juice that it used to have with where it falls on the calendar. But Alabama signed 21 players. The only player that Alabama had committed that didn't sign, Ty Haywood, the big offensive tackle from Denton, Texas, who everyone's reporting will eventually sign with Michigan in February. We will see. But what did you think of the Alabama signing class for this year?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was, again, I think if you could have held on to a couple of players, Caleb Cunningham, the 5-star receiver that went to Ole Miss, that was committed to you, Ty Haywood, like you said, probably headed to Michigan or at least somewhere else. Those would have been huge pickups, but this is the way it is now. I mean, it's going to be really competitive, and a lot of these big NIL deals are going to happen down the stretch that maybe you just say, hey, we don't want to get involved in to that extent. So, again, I think when you look at it, they had a top-notch offensive line class. They replaced, if you want to say, use that word, replaced Caleb Cunningham with a fantastic receiver prospect out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Derek Meadows, who kind of is, maybe you could say with his height, he's kind of like Caleb Odoms. He's close to 6'6". So you got Latsier Brooks at wide receiver as well. You got a fantastic running back in A.K. Deer. You got, Gary, you got the number one player in the state of Texas, Keelan Russell, the quarterback, who's number 2 overall according to 247. You got the number 1 and the number 2 prospects in the state of California, Jajon Lee at corner and Jackson Lloyd at offensive tackle. You got the number one player in the state of Florida, in Michael Carroll, the offensive lineman. So you went to the 3 hottest recruiting beds in the country and nabbed the top players out of those states. They got 7 out of California overall. So I think, for what they did a fantastic job with this class, there's no doubt. Again, how do they kind of, what would you say, supplement the class through the portal? Because I think that's going to be really key. Receivers, can you get some defensive linemen? I'm talking about, really good defensive linemen that can help you, that can be developed, hopefully, into really good players and whatever other positions that you feel like you need.
All right, one final thought on the playoff, and this is big picture. This just is in Alabama, although I've already said the SEC chance, and it just means more don't apply from these other fan bases when it comes to Alabama, because I think from what I've seen, the other fan bases are giddy that Alabama didn't make it in. But they should be concerned for the conference in that this is a fail for the SEC and Commissioner Greg Sankey, in my opinion, that the Big Ten got 4 teams in and the SEC did not. And that's SEC fans should be concerned about that. It gives the Big Ten a better chance to win the national championship, which will be their second straight. And just from if you're one of the big dogs and you don't get as many teams in as the other big dogs, that's not a good look for the conference, in my opinion. Your reaction?
Well, I think, go back to what we said. What did the committee ultimately value? And it is kind of, last week we looked at it, and what the message was when they placed Alabama over Miami was strength of schedule means something. Miami, so it didn't seem consistent. I think the committee did not seem consistent, I think, here with this selection of SMU. Really what they were saying was, okay, all they needed to do was have a close loss. And we're not going to, if you want to use the word punish, I don't know that that's a good word, but we're not going to punish them for losing in a championship game. And then go back to Georgia last year. And again, like you said, it was a 14 playoff, but still, I think with Georgia's credentials last year, if any team deserved to ever be in, that team deserved to be in the top 4. There's no doubt about that. Because ultimately, and I know Alabama beat them last year, it was a real strong argument that Georgia was still the best team in the country. I don't think anyone say that about SMU. I really don't think in the heart of hearts people would say they think SMU is one of the 12 best teams. So to your question, I think that you have to, if you're the SEC and you're the Big Ten, there's been a lot of talk about going to a super conference, and, that's probably what they need to do. They probably need to expedite this and get it done as quickly as possible so they can start having a legitimate playoff system where you get the best teams playing the best teams every single year, and again, this isn't just about Alabama. I think Ole Miss was very deserving. I think South Carolina was very deserving. So I think that's really what you have to do is this might kind of push the clock on getting that done.
Rodney, great segment, thoughtful segment. We appreciate it as always. Folks, go to TiderInsider.com for the best Alabama coverage, and you can follow Rodney on Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter, at Tider Insider there on the X as well. Thank you, Rod.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
All right, we're over, but we'll take a break, and we'll come back and wrap up this first hour right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, starting at 2 p.m., we're either going to be celebrating or we're going to be crying. We'll talk about Alabama's playoff chances. At that point will be known. We'll recap it with Drudy Arnold. We'll talk to Martin Houston. We'll talk to Barrett Salee right here on The Game with Ryan Fowler, starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
Sharon Osmond, and she'll love it.
I'm Tom Osmond, your jeweler at Fincher & Osmond Jewelers. Not so easy to find on McFarland, between Edgar's and Local Roots.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. Discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Wet weather headlines are forecast today and tonight. Cloudy with occasional rain. The high today 66. The low tonight 50. Tomorrow cloudy, rain likely, maybe a thunderstorm in spots. The high tomorrow afternoon in the mid to upper 60s at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:59. That's going to wrap it up for hour number 1 of the Gary Harris Show, brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Hour number 2 is on the way, and we'll have just as much fun as we had in hour number 1. You can keep it dialed in to Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Steve DeSager.
The New York Mets agreed to a 15-year deal with outfielder Juan Soto worth $765 million. It's the largest contract in sports history, and it has no deferred money. There is an opt-out after 5 years. In the Sunday night NFL game at Kansas City, the Chiefs clinched the AFC West title for a 9th straight season, edging the Chargers 19-17, thanks to a 31-yard field goal on the final play. Matthew Wright was 4 for 4 on field goals for KC, including his hitting from 47 and 50 yards. The Rams were 44-42 winners over Buffalo, ending the Bills' 7-game winning streak. Josh Allen in the loss, 3 touchdown passes and 3 one-yard touchdown runs. Philadelphia trailed at home in the
also take care of any problems you got with a damp crawl space or a crack in your foundation. They even do pest control and lawn care. Full service Alabama Professional Services at alabamaprofessional.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. That was a fun first hour. I'm sure we'll have more fun here in the second hour. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is manning the controls on this still somewhat, I won't say rainy, but overcast Monday morning. The Tuscaloosa Christmas Parade comes up tonight, so it'll be a little overcast, but it's going to be warm. That's the good news. It won't be really cold, so I think most people will take a few clouds to have warmer temperatures, and that's going to be the case. Speaking of Chase, let me bring him in because we were so busy in the first hour. Chase, your reaction to Alabama not making it into the college football playoff?
Man, I'm a little disappointed, honestly. I think more in the committee than in Alabama, because I knew once Alabama lost to OU, there was that chance that they weren't going to get in, depending on how the conference championships went, Gary. I think this is a wake-up call to Kalen DeBoer and the rest of the coaching staff that if you're not winning, your chances are literally slimming, especially winning is the standard here in Tuscaloosa, T-Town. But, yeah, I think SMU, the minute they got it close to Clemson, I was like, there's a chance that Alabama might get out. I don't know. It's just a sticky situation right now.
Well, let's do this. Speaking of the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, since we don't have a phone call right now, I want to play his audio from last night. He did a Zoom session with reporters following Alabama's football awards banquet, and let's run Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer, his comments last night in regard to not making the playoff, to the bowl game, the portal, and several other questions. Here's Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer.
See what we got to do and could have done this year, but got to make sure, it's not in other people's hands and, keep ourselves kind of focused on that next year. Just knowing that the process doesn't always end up how you think it is, how you think it's gonna. So, had our banquet tonight with our guys, haven't had a lot of like one-on-one talks and things like that, but certainly they share the same disappointment. Also, looking forward to what, lies ahead with our bowl opportunity, and obviously hoping that it was going to be more than one game, but we got one more game together and going to make the most of it, whether it's this season, the 2024 team, or just building on it and preparing for the future and being better because of the opportunities we get here in the next couple weeks.
All right. Thank you, Coach. We'll go ahead and take some questions. Charlie, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Coach. You mentioned how you haven't had one-on-one conversations with the players, but have you been able to talk to the leaders on your team? And have they maybe kind of relayed their message or your message to the rest of the team?
A few, yeah, there are a few. I mean, it's been a busy day. We went from first understanding what the situation was going to be as far as not being in to talking to a few of the guys, still not even knowing what our bowl game was, and then the bowl game, announcement, and then really right into our banquet, and just finished that up here about 45 minutes or so ago. So, again, I think just around our program, I feel like the culture's in a good place. The mindset of guys, they've taken a lot of pride in what we've gone through and what we did this year, whether it's just the course we stayed on and to get the way they stuck together. But also, the resume ain't perfect, but there's a lot of big moments in the season and big wins, that we had this year. So again, there are leaders, and those leaders expressed nothing but positive things as far as moving forward, whether it's guys that are, kind of on the back end of their career, or just guys that are, going to be important for us moving forward, same roles or even bigger roles. And so, I'm sure there'll be some discussions and things like that. There always is. I would expect that, whether you play in the last game in January or, we just finished a week ago. There's discussions, just guys trying to understand, the role, and doesn't mean it's bad. It means that, you just, that communication's there. That's how you build trust. And again, I think, our players, feel good that they can come talk to us, and, we encourage that.
Go to Katie Wyndham with Bama Central.
Obviously, Michigan is a team that this Alabama team is familiar with. Guys that played them last year, you played them last year. Just kind of this matchup, is there maybe a little bit of the revenge factor for the guys that played for you at Washington and then these guys that played Michigan last year?
Yeah, there's so many different pieces to this. I get that and appreciate the question for sure. But I think this, again, we've made it always about this team. That's when we've been at our best, is when we really focus on just what it means to this program, this team. We can go back to the Iron Bowl. It wasn't about anything external. It was about this group. And that's what we will certainly keep it to, when it comes to getting ready for, Michigan and the bowl game.
Let's go to Nick Kelly, AL.com.
Hey, Kalen, I realize that you still have the bowl games, one more game, but when you look at this season and preparing for next season, how do you think you'll address maybe improving on consistency and the inconsistency issues you guys had at times in certain games?
Yeah, I think there's different reasons for it throughout the course of the year. It might, and different position groups might have been hit with different things that affected them throughout, that week. It might have been the matchups and some of those things that were greater challenges. It might have been the flow of the game, other things. So a lot of things, you control, and that's what we got to focus on. That's what we'll always focus on, is those that we can control. The things we can't control, or the breaks that don't go your way. We just got to make sure that we're stronger because of what we went through. I think having an off season where there's some consistency, and a longer period of time to be able to just do what I would normally do in an off season, whether it's the details that you'd be starting in the middle of January or the end of January, where we pretty much hired our whole staff probably in the middle of February, and trying to just get them to learn the offense, learn the defensive scheme. So the time frame and the build up, the ability now after 1 year to just grow the relationships, which builds trust, which leads to greater confidence. It's just all part of the process. And, we always want to jump from, and we look at, there's talent here, there's talent there. There's a process to this, and we want to skip steps. And you feel like in a lot of places, you can, and I think we did in some areas, but there's some areas too that's just, as agonizing as it is, sometimes you just got to go through those tough times to really know how it can help you in the long run. So, I always kind of learned from a good friend of mine and great coach. You always kind of look at, why is this happening? To me, sometimes you got to look at why is this happening for me? And that's what I shared with the team all season long. I think that really helped them understand that, okay, we got to learn from everything we go through and be better because of it.
Okay, next let's go to Colin Gay with Tuscaloosa News.
Hey, Kalen, I'm kind of jumping off of what Charlie asked, but after the Oklahoma game, you obviously, were preaching kind of commitment and then kind of a culture of, opt-outs and early portal entries, draft entries. Is that a message that you continue to push today, like when talking about a bowl game in a CFP world? Is that something that you continue to kind of preach and push?
After the Oklahoma game, we were preaching that, or
yeah, you were talking about kind of just the emphasizing commitment through whatever was for the rest of your schedule.
Yeah, commitment for the rest of the schedule. To me, it's more about just commitment to that, the sacrifices it takes each and every day to be our best. I don't think it was necessarily, especially at that time, focused on someone we might lose 2 weeks later when, let's say, the portal opens or anything like that. I don't think it was, really directed towards that. It was towards the day-to-day, work that it takes in the process, that we focused on that made us successful, is making sure that was the case, getting ready for the Iron Bowl, that was the next week.
Tony Tsoukalos with Tide Illustrated.
Yeah, Kalen, I'll ask you another kind of opt-outy question, but is there an opportunity where you have guys that could be first round or early round picks? Do you almost encourage those guys to maybe take care of themselves? And does this opportunity give you maybe the opportunity to see some of the younger players? And are you kind of excited about that?
Yeah, you're always, I don't know if it's going to be because of opt-outs, though. I think from what I feel right now, and I'm not saying there won't be one, but I feel like right now we're in a place where most of those guys are planning on playing. I don't care what round they're planning on going in, and we'll see. But that's my early just understanding, having talked with a few guys, and, these guys are committed to this place. And, there's been a streak of 10 game seasons or more, or 10 win seasons. And, they got a lot of pride in this program and want to continue to move it forward, and, want to play and spend one more game with their brothers here on this football team. So, I think, we're in a good spot. There'll be some things, I'm sure, with some guys moving on out of the program, as I think maybe some have already announced already that they don't plan on being here. And that's going to be the case, I think, every year. And especially here as we go through really our first full cycle where we're working together with them as well. So last year we were really just in full retention mode. There was no portal for us to take any guys from, I guess other than programs that lost head coaches, and that's the situation we were in. So, again, we're going to build our program with the freshman class, which I'm really excited about, the signees. We're going to retain and we're going to develop the guys we have here, and fill in the areas that, need some numbers, or maybe just need to be a little bit better on the football field on Saturday. So, that's a fluid thing. And I feel like, again, communication is where it all starts.
Next, let's go to Mike Rodak with Bama 247.
Just on those receivers entering the portal, what was your message throughout the years? Maybe the opportunities and the targets might not have been there for them.
I think they're aware that, that just our style of offense this year, it was all about whatever it took to win. And I'll credit those guys. They did a great job of doing whatever they needed to do to help us win. And we got a lot of unselfish guys. That from year to year is going to change and evolve based on the personnel we have. And, the style is going to be different. It might not just be, your quarterback. It might be, the number of receivers or tight ends. We're going to try to have some guys that fit a little bit of what we envision it being, down the road. But, that's kind of what I really appreciate about our guys is it was all about whatever it took to win, and them taking a back seat to whatever it would take to do that for them individually. And it's just, all those guys did that.
All right. Great stuff right there from Kalen DeBoer. Not his entire Zoom presser from last night, but we got most of it in for you, and we've got to get to a break. But terrific stuff. I like Coach's attitude. And you know what? You got to go. You got to go deal with what's in front of you, and that's Michigan, and not the college football playoff. All right, it's 10:18. We're going to take a timeout here on the program, and we'll be back with more. We can squeeze in a couple phone calls in the next segment if you want to give us a call on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. And also we're going to visit with...
And your favorite drink from the bar before the Bama game. They also have lots of TVs to watch the Bama game at Grandstand in Temerson Square downtown.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Wet weather headlines are forecast today and tonight. Cloudy with occasional rain. The high today 66. The low tonight 50. Tomorrow cloudy, rain likely, maybe a thunderstorm in spots. The high tomorrow afternoon in the mid to upper 60s at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Chase, I'm loving the Christmas music, man. I'm just loving that we're in the holiday season and we're rocking it every day here on the Gary Harris Show. 10:22, and welcome back into the program. Casey Smith on golf coming up in the next segment. Right now, though, speaking of Christmas, speaking of the holiday season, we're going to visit for a couple of minutes with Kim Lipinski, General Manager of Billy's Sports Grill in downtown historic Northport. What an incredible event they've got coming up this Wednesday evening from 5 until 7 p.m., Dinner with Santa. That's right. A special guest all the way from the North Pole, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the city of Northport Toys for Tots. So it's fun, and it's for a good cause. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, Gary.
Well, I just kind of led you in there. Dinner with Santa. I know it's going to be, and it won't be just Santa. I got a feeling there's going to be some elves that are going to be hanging out and coming down from if he's going to make the trip all the way from the North Pole, there'll be some other of Santa's helpers there for you as well. But fill us in on what you got coming up Wednesday evening.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it, but this is our third year doing this. We love the energy of the holidays, and always have a real tree, and we decorate the restaurant. But this is our first year that we are partnering with Toys for Tots, and we just we're excited for giving something for the less fortunate, the holiday season, and just hoping everyone can bring something. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Something small will work, but we will, like you said, also be donating a small portion of the proceeds as well from the restaurant.
Yeah, it's kind of a double whammy in that proceeds. Some of the proceeds will go to Toys for Tots, and also bring a toy and donate if you can. And here's the thing. Of course, I've been associated with Billy's through my radio show for several years, and I live right down the street too, so it's easier for me to go. But it isn't just what's happening on Wednesday night. The entire restaurant and bar area. You, Kim, I don't know if people know this. You're a very talented artist. And you have it decked out on the windows with incredible paintings that you have done for the holiday season. A huge tree, as you mentioned, lights at the bar. It's hard to walk into Billy's and not get in the holiday spirit, and that's a tribute to you and your staff.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we definitely, the time of year, the energy of the holidays, it's just such a warming time of year, and we like to express that throughout the restaurant.
Well, you do a great job with it. All right, one more time. I want you to run down exactly for our listeners. Maybe they just tuned in. Dinner with Santa, Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 at Billy's, and also for Toys for Tots. So, again, just send out an invitation to everyone, and for little children, too. Obviously, this is going to be a thrill because they might not get another opportunity to see Santa, right? Because when he's visiting on Christmas Eve, he's going to try to keep his identity hidden from the kids. So this is a great opportunity for them, too.
Exactly. Great opportunity. And it's always, just a great time with Santa joining us.
And one other thing while I've got you, because I was in there, I came actually walked down yesterday afternoon. I think it was probably, it was a little bit in the evening. It's probably right around 6 or so. But anyway, had dinner and I noticed that JT was back there, and the restaurant was crowded. You have a holiday drink menu, am I right? With all kinds of special holiday drinks that people can order.
Oh, we do. I mean, it really took the time this year to come up with, a whole different drink menu and feature some new things. And I mean, we're back there roasting marshmallows right behind the bar.
Yeah, he was doing s'mores. JT was doing s'mores and all kinds of ice cream looking holiday drinks. I didn't know what all they were, but he was turning them out, man. It was so cool. All right, folks, listen, one more time. Wednesday, December 11th. I'm sorry, Kim.
No, I was saying, yeah, they look amazing coming out, that's for sure.
They sure do. They're very festive looking. Wednesday, December the 11th from 5 to 7 p.m., dinner with Santa at Billy's Sports Grill in downtown Northport. Bring a toy to donate to Toys for Tots, and also just to get out there and enjoy Santa and his elves. And remember, part of the proceeds will also go to Northport Toys for Tots. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, Kim Lipinski from Billy's Sports Grill in downtown Northport. 10:26, we got time to squeeze a phone call in. If you want to give us a ring, 205-342-9904. Glad we got to hear from Kalen DeBoer. And, as a fan or a sportscaster or someone who's just an analyst, we can have our opinions, but we don't have to live it, I mean, as a coach, you can't really dwell on the wouldas, couldas, and shouldas. You can't really, you gotta look at it and then move on. I mean, they gotta play a game. And so while there's a lot of disappointment in that building, Malmore Athletic Facility, I'm sure of that, you can't dwell, and you've got to get going here with your workouts, and then once practice begins for that bowl game, you got to be able to dial in, because as I said already this morning, this is a big game. First of all, it's a chance to play another game. Here's the thing about competitors. Every time you get a chance to play a game, it should be special, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's a conference game, whether it's a bowl game. Obviously, if you're in the college football playoff, the stakes are raised. But when you have an opportunity to compete against another team and win a game, it should be special. And this bowl game should be special. Hey, listen, I know a lot of people are celebrating that Alabama's not in the college football playoff, but you could be Auburn and not playing in anything. Okay? You could be sitting at home. So, anyway, listen, we got some phone calls we're going to try to get to real quick here because they are lined up for us. Ground Chuck is going to lead us off. Go ahead, Ground Chuck. Ground Chuck's gone. What about Bryce? Bryce, you there?
Yeah. Dude.
Hey, Bryce.
I'm not disappointed that Alabama didn't get in. I'm disappointed for the conference. It is atrocious that the Big Ten watered down, got 4 teams in. We only got 3. It's, Alabama, yes, they have, if you have half of that 12-team playoff, 12 teams in there probably go 500 if they played Alabama's schedule. Is my personal opinion. But that's what I'm upset about. It was Big Ten bias is what it was. And I know you.
Well, I don't know that it was Big Ten bias as much as the Big Ten just was able to, getting themselves in a better position. And they had a team in Indiana that I don't think is one of the 12 best teams in the country, but they are 11-1. And you're not going to keep an 11-1 team out of the college football playoff from the Big Ten. So maybe they had a little more leverage. But I agree with you, Bryce, as I've already said. It's very disappointing that the SEC has one less team in the playoff than the Big Ten. And let's just be honest about it. The Big Ten's got a better chance to win the national championship than the SEC does. That's just the reality of it.
Sure.
You got 4 teams to 3. You got a better chance. So, as I said, I don't know what's going on in the SEC office, but they shouldn't be happy over there this morning. I can tell you that.
Well, the SMU would be 500 at best if they played Alabama's schedule.
You might be right, but they didn't. They played the schedule that they had, and the committee deemed that they did enough, even though they lost their conference championship game, to get in. So I'm disappointed. I said that. I'm disappointed. I think Alabama should have been in the playoff, but they're not, and that's the reality of it. So you can whine about it, or you can move on and try to get ready. Because, again, I'll say this, Bryce, and you know this is the truth. As disappointed as everybody is right now, if you go down there and lay an egg in that bowl game in Tampa on New Year's Eve against Michigan, people are going to be a lot more disappointed. So you need to go down there and win that game and get that 10th win.
I agree. But just that the point I was making is that the conference should have had 4 teams. You know.
No, they should have. I agree with you. No, I'm with you. I've been saying that all morning. The SEC should have gotten 4 teams in. I said it. It's a fail for the Southeastern Conference not to have 4 teams in, but they don't. You know, so it you know, that's the reality of it. And Alabama's not in, so you know nothing we can do about it. But it's disappointing. Yeah.
The committee made us believe that they were going to go by strength of schedule and head to head. They made us believe that, and then they weren't consistent at all. This committee wasn't.
Well, most committees never are, to be honest with you. There's controversy. You know, when there was a BCS, there was controversy. When there's a 14 playoff, there was a controversy. There's a 12-team playoff, there's controversy. And if they go to 16, there'll be controversy with that. That's the way it was. Well, hey, thank you, Bryce. I got to try to get another call in real quick. Let's see here. Chase, our last caller is JR. Hey, good morning, JR.
Good morning. How you doing, Gary?
Doing well, buddy. Good to hear from you.
You know, real quick, I want to cut to the chase here. I'm disappointed, yeah, but I'm not surprised that, you know, that the committee left Alabama out, because bottom line is we lost two games that we shouldn't have lost. I mean, to 6-6, their record ended up 6-6, both teams, out Vandy and Oklahoma, that we lost to. So, you know, I think that's sort of like, I'd agree with Coach DeBoer. He said, we learned from this. You don't do that. You don't lose to those games, and we'd be in. So
yeah, there's no doubt about it. But, you know, Alabama's not the only team that lost games that they wish they could have won. I mean, Ohio State lost to Michigan at home as a 3-touchdown favorite at home. You know, they got in the playoffs.
Well,
so I get it.
How many losses did they have?
They have 2. I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I feel like Alabama's body of work was worthy of getting in the playoffs. That's my opinion. I
feel like if we were in the playoffs, we'd run deep with the teams that are in there. I mean, unless we play someone. I'm not sure about Oregon. I really can't determine that, because I'm not real sure that Penn State's really as good as their ranking. But I don't know that Alabama could win against them, because if we lose to Oklahoma and Vandy, then, you know, we'd have to play our better game to be able to.
Yeah, they would. But, you know, they also beat Georgia, and they also blew out LSU Baton Rouge. I get it. I mean, they lost a couple games that I agree with you. They should not have lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, but they did. Doesn't mean that they couldn't have beat Penn State or Notre Dame or anybody else.
We just lost. Even if we just lost to one of them, and, you know, we'd still been in. But we didn't. We lost to 2 teams that we shouldn't have lost to, and we're being punished for it. And I think we got to put our tail between our legs and learn from it, you know. And, you know, I hate it. I really do, because I feel like you said, I feel like Alabama would have a chance to run pretty deep into the playoff with the teams that are in there. And because I feel like we're better than a lot of the teams that are in the playoff. But nonetheless, we are where we are. And then on top of that, you know, like insult to injury, as I read earlier, that here we get the same get a boot from the bowl team pick. We didn't go to the Citrus.
Yeah, but who cares? I'd rather play Michigan than Illinois anyway. I don't. Orlando versus Tampa. That doesn't bother me. I mean, I think Alabama versus Michigan's a much more attractive matchup than Alabama versus Illinois anyway. So go win the game. Well, you know, what you say is the truth, JR. They're not in the playoff. They didn't do enough to get in, but they got one more game to play, and it should be important, and it should mean something to Alabama football players to want to win that bowl game and get the 10 wins and beat Michigan. So hopefully that's what they'll do, right?
Yeah, right. Well, real quickly,
okay.
How many of the players do you feel like are going to hold back and not go?
Well, from what DeBoer said, my feeling is that everybody that's on the roster, most are going to play. Now, if you go into the portal, that might be a different story. If you go into the portal, then you may not play. But for the players that don't go in the portal, I think he expects all of them to play. So that's good news. Mm-hmm. That's real good news. And I'll take him at his word that he's not expecting any opt-outs. So that's what I'm thinking. All right, JR, appreciate you, man. It's good to hear from you. We got to get.
Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. And visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, it's 10:39. Welcome back in. We're running a little bit behind with a busy show this morning, but it is time for Casey Smith on golf. And, of course, we'll also talk a little Bama football with Casey. Good morning, Casey. How are you?
Well, I'd be doing a lot better if the committee would have done its job and the right job. And given that they did not do their job correctly, I'm not as happy today. I'm probably, not as bad as some of the people that are PO'd called in, but.
Well, there's a lot of them that seem pretty happy about it. I believe it or not, I've gotten a lot of pushback because I think Alabama should be in. I'm getting we lost 3 games. We hadn't lost to Vanderbilt. We hadn't lost to Oklahoma. Okay. All right. Whatever. Well, so you still don't think Alabama's one of the 12 best teams in the country. But, to each their own, I suppose. I'd rather be in the playoff than not. But some people seem people seem like they're pretty and I know this. All the other SEC fan bases, it's not the SEC just means more when it's Alabama involved. There's some SEC fan bases that are absolutely giddy this morning that Alabama's not in it, even though it hurts the Southeastern Conference, Casey. So imagine that. We're all for the SEC until Alabama's involved, right?
Yeah, and living over here, it's even further exasperated. The amount of Clemson people, the amount of all of it doesn't matter. Everyone versus Alabama. We converted when we got in the playoffs, and ultimately, who do you want in? You want Alabama in? You want SMU in? It's not even close. If the committee was doing their job like the NCAA basketball committee does, there are some leagues that are one big league. There's many leagues out there that have 2 teams that could be tournament teams in basketball that don't get in. And when you go to automatic qualifiers to get in a playoff or competition, then you have to go to the best teams to make the field the best field. And that's for everything that goes into that. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that. You said it. Are the best, you know what? It's more than just Alabama. Ole Miss and USC, South Carolina fans, should both be upset. Indiana hasn't beaten a top 25 team. Frankly, Texas hasn't either. They deserve to be in, but Indiana doesn't really deserve to be in. We all know that. They have to fix the scheduling if they're going to use there's these metrics dropping all over the place. It's really a couple of last things on it would be Greg McElroy should be ashamed of himself. The platform that he was given to make himself in the position he's in right now, intelligent guy, has represented Alabama well, but if you're on the board, you're on the fence, it's not most deserving. Upward Sports not keeping score has ruined some sports across America of not caring who wins. And it's not this most deserving thing has no place in a 12-team college football playoff. And he goes the most deserving route against his alma mater when he should be using his voice for that.
Well, he and Sean McDonough, basically after the ACC championship game, almost went on a rant about why SMU deserved to be in. And, they spent 5 minutes, as you alluded to, just absolutely saying SMU definitely deserves to be in. And that's a strong opinion, but that's if that's the opinion he has, then I guess he has the right to voice it, whether he's an Alabama national championship winning quarterback or not. So I guess we'll just have to leave it at that. But I'm with you. I see nothing about this playoff that's built around getting the 12 best teams in it. So and for the SEC to only get 3 and the Big Ten get 4, yeah, it's a fail. It's a fail for the SEC office, no doubt about it.
Well, and I'd add one more thing to this. You're exactly right. The unsustainable product that we have right now, it's going to be out of balance in one of the best sports ever, college football. These guys that are on television should be advocating for your best teams with the most wattage, because now, as Greg Burns said, we're going to go back and reevaluate. Are we going to play these premier out-of-conference games, which hurts the fan only, when they should be, all these people should be advocating for best on best, so we can, as fans who are paying for all of these changes in college football, should be rewarded, and then it is still best to best. But we're back to participation trophies. The non-Power 5 getting that one, okay, fine. Then there's no more marginal teams. You can see it. Doesn't matter who it is. You can see it. The ACC is a one-bid league. I mean, look, Duke's biggest win, or SMU's biggest win is Duke, who lost to Clemson and lost to South Carolina. Alabama would be a double-digit favorite over, like 12-14 over SMU. But
yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, Casey, is the mighty SEC only got one more team in the playoff than did the ACC. The ACC got 2 teams in, which I think if you would have told anybody even, I don't know, just a week ago, would have told you that they weren't going to get 2 teams in. But
play those teams.
But that's the way it worked out. So, I tell you where this is headed. This is headed toward blowing this thing up and getting this super conference that we've heard so much about. That's where we're headed. And then it'll be set up like the NFL, and there'll be a schedule, and there'll be a criteria, and you will win your way into the playoff or you won't. And there won't be any more committees.
That's right.
That's where we're eventually headed. So, but Alabama didn't get in. Now, I'll ask you one final question on the Crimson Tide. How important is it in your mind that despite the failure to make the CFP, that you get your minds right and you go win this bowl game against Michigan, because it gives you a chance to keep the 10-game streak alive of winning 10 games every season since 2008, and also give you some positive momentum. You lose this game, and there's really going to be a negative vibe around the program.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what's happened to schools that didn't finish on a good note. Look at Florida State last year. They got to do the best to keep all the right guys on the bus, get the wrong guys off the bus, build towards 25, end on a good note. You really just want to keep all your core players good. The good guys that are going to really help lead the others. We know we got some studs coming in that are going to be expected to play. We know we're going to get some portal guys. They already pretty much know who's leaving. So, hey, probably going to be a little thinner, but you got to go down there and take your best. I think from what I'm told, they're expecting most to play. It's another game to get yourself a game on tape to be seen, whether it's transfer portal, NFL scout, whatever. And you're getting to go out there and represent for the University of Alabama. No greater opportunity to play in a bowl game. You played in the playoffs probably if you're an older player. So, yeah, you know, go out there and show up and show out on your last chance to do it. I think most of them will take that chance, and be interesting to see what comes in terms of some of the moves. And I think some of the fans are probably happy because they're hoping that the, Milroe era is over, and that's where you're probably getting some of the happiness. Congrats and kudos to him. He had a great career. We won an SEC championship. He laid it on the line over here. He didn't have his best games, 3 games this year. Probably cost us, and should be in the playoffs, but that's not a reason to be cheering to be out. I hope everyone changes their tune on that. We don't want to be cheering losing.
All right, let's get to golf, because it was an interesting weekend at the Hero World Challenge Tigers tournament, invitation tournament, and he couldn't play, obviously, but Justin Thomas and Nick Dunlap did, and Justin Thomas had the lead. It's easy to forget he had the lead going into the final round, and he played great. Let's give him credit. Now, he had a disappointing finish to the day yesterday. 2 bogeys to finish, put him in 3rd behind Tom Kim, but it wouldn't have mattered much what he did. This was another testament to where Scotty Scheffler's at right now, and he's entering Tiger territory. He looks like he's going to be even better in 2025. He's gone to the claw grip, and now he's making every putt to go along with the way he hits it. He just ran away. He just ran away and lapped the field yesterday, not just JT. So I'm happy for JT. He had that 2nd place finish over in Asia. Now a 3rd place finish here. getting ready for what I think will be a season in which he wins again in 2025. But what can you say about Scotty Scheffler? Casey, this is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty Scheffler really goes out and just makes it look insanely easy. If you watch the second round, it looked a lot like the last round. The second round, he made 7 birdies to open his round. He shot 29 on the front, but he only made 1 on the back. When I watched a lot of that, he only had 2 bogeys in the whole tournament. And then he goes out and shoots 63 yesterday. Again, to make it the best round of the event, 32-31. It really didn't look like there was any stress. And then what he does to his competitors is he puts pressure on them. And Justin Thomas is leading the tournament. He starts seeing, Scotty Scheffler's success. He's got to go out and try to make some stuff happen. JT's made, bogeys on 2 of the first 5 holes. And he made 2 birdies as well. So, some of that is being pressed from above. And he knows Scotty's going to be going. You got to make birdies. And then, give it to JT to come back and get 3 more to start his front 9 or back 9. But he finished with bogeys on 16 and 18. Should have been a pretty easily second place finish for him. But I got to give JT credit. He's trying to make stuff happen to win. He wasn't really playing for second place and hoping Scotty might make something, a mistake or 2. But, when you compare them, I'm really encouraged to see where JT's game is and going. He's going to have, it looks like, a really good year if he just keeps this up. Game looks to be an incredible place. Scotty Scheffler has that game. The stats back it up. It looks like this Tiger Woods 2000 run extended going on. The guy doesn't miss. He hits it really straight. Probably his most underrated statistic is driving. He drives it so straight and so long. It's not longest on tour, but just long enough. Top 20, 25 on driving distance. We know what his irons are, and now he's got this claw putter going. We're in an effort to just try to get better on 6 feet and in, which we know that's the money range, and it saves rounds. He's been doing all of what he's been doing, accomplishing what he's accomplished without putting really good inside that 6-foot range. Now, here we go. You don't know what's going to happen. If he puts like this the rest of the year, we know he's going to hit his driver and irons really good week to week, and we know he's going to have a good short game. I mean, that's just rinse and repeat for him every week. Now he may have found something in his putting and his short putting, because his long putting is good. So, wow, best is yet to come, probably Scotty Scheffler, and he is turning into just dominant.
Yeah, he putts like this, and he may win every event that he plays. All right, I know we've got, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said he won by 6, right? I mean, not only did he just win, he won by 6 shots, and those other.
And he didn't lead. Like I said, he did not lead going into the final round. I mean, that's just unbelievable. All right, I other than the made-for-TV events and things that we have, so we're done now until the Hawaii in January, right? On the PGA Tour.
The golf season's done, minus the Philly event that's coming up. There's a couple of those. We got that match that's coming up, the 2-on-2 match. Brooks and Bryson versus Scotty and Rory should be pretty good. They're going to play 6 holes, better ball, 6 holes, scramble, or whatever, and that's good. And the rest is we turn the page to 2025 to open this year, the Maui Classic or the Maui Invitational out there, and all the champions and guys that finished in the top 50 will be out there to earn bigger checks. So we'll have a bunch of guys in that field, and golf season's on a break until then.
All right, Casey, we're running out of time, but we got the golf in, we got the football in. I might as well, while I got you, get a quick
basketball last week.
That's what I was just going to go. Quick basketball thought. They're on a board to break themselves now until they host Creighton on the 14th. But a nice win up at North Carolina where they kind of just wore the Tar Heels out.
I mean, wore them out good. I learned after having an injury to Trevor Reitzel, coming back and winning like that, looking like that, teams deep, roster deep, should give all of us Alabama fans something to be happy about this winter while we're all still a little PO'd about what happened yesterday.
All right, Casey. Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary. Have a good one.
All right. 10:52 here on the Gary Harris Show. And I've been talking about the YMCA of Tuscaloosa for a long time. and the benefits of becoming a member. And this is a good time to become a member. I know that the holiday season's underway and people are eating and being festive, and you're saying to yourself, well, I'll just wait until January. Why wait? Go ahead and enjoy yourself. Eat what you want, make merry, but go ahead and be getting in the gym and give yourself a jump start. I mean, you'd rather eat right. I would too, and work out, but you can still enjoy yourself and still work out. So don't wait. Go by the Y. See them today. Jeff Knox and the staff there. Tremendous facility, tremendous people. Personal training is the best. 205-345-9622, 2300 13th Street downtown, YMCA-Tuscaloosa.org. We'll be back after this. We got time to squeeze in maybe one phone call in the final segment. If you want to give us a ring at 205-342-9904.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, starting at 2 p.m., we're either going to be celebrating or we're going to be crying. We'll talk about Alabama's playoff chances. At that point will be known. We'll recap it with Drudy Arnold. We'll talk to Martin Houston. We'll talk to Barrett Salee right here on The Game with Ryan Fowler, starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program and
offering you 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs, 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Wet weather headlines are forecast today and tonight. Cloudy with occasional rain. The high today 66. The low tonight 50. Tomorrow cloudy, rain likely. Maybe a thunderstorm in spots. The high tomorrow afternoon in the mid to upper 60s at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:58, wrapping it up. Couple quick app messages. SMU motto, play nobody, beat nobody, be nobody, the way to the CFP. That's from SLC Bama Girl. And Tony in Seminole, Oklahoma, is going to be coming through in January. He knows I like to ride bikes. Tony, yeah, maybe we can work it out. We could go on a bike ride. We'll talk about it for sure. Also, didn't get to all the award winners, but Tyler Booker and Jalen Milroe were voted team MVPs by their teammates yesterday at the Alabama Football Awards Banquet. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thanks to Chase for doing a great job as always. We got T-Town Sports Daily coming up next. Have a great day, everybody. I'll talk to you again in the morning.